Hello, this is Nectarios from Celestialtextures, and today we're going to talk about Wavetable, which is Ableton Live's native wavetable synthesizer. It is a 2-oscillator wavetable synth with filters, envelopes, LFOs, and a very nice modulation matrix. It is not as involved as Serum or Vital, but it has 3 envelopes and 2 LFOs. And there are banks of wavetables provided for each of the 2 oscillators. Each oscillator has 3 algorithms that expand the amount of timbres that are available from this synth. And for this example, I'm going to use the FM algorithm to make a classic Psytrance lead. Now we're listening to the basic sine wave of oscillator 1. The amount is the frequency modulation amount for this algorithm, and increasing the amount increases the frequency modulation that is occurring internally within oscillator 1 in Wavetable. I just have a legato F note playing. And by editing the tune parameter, I'm effectively detuning the modulator oscillator against the carrier. And by doing so, I'm going from consonant to dissonant, back to consonant timbres. I can also have a negative percentage on the tuning of the modulator oscillator. But the thing to take notice is that values of 50, 100, minus 50 and minus 100% yield consonant timbres, and everything else yields dissonant timbres. So if I can just go through some wavetables. I just choose FM fold. This is an FM fold wavetable, and there's still frequency modulation applied to it because I've selected the FM algorithm in oscillator 1. So it's sort of a 2-operator FM patch, if you will. And if I just choose a high-pass filter, MS20, give it some resonance. And now to modulate the cutoff frequency of the high-pass filter, I want to use a MIDI note parameter. I want at every new MIDI note to have a random value on the cutoff frequency of the high-pass filter. And the way to do that is to move its cutoff frequency, and the last touched parameter appears on the target column on the left. So it becomes a destination, and I can select a modulator and modulate the last touch parameter. So at every bar, at every 4 beats, we get a new cutoff frequency value. So the next obvious thing to do in a wavetable synthesizer is to scan the wavetable. So, okay, so far so good. Let's see what we can do by adding oscillator 2 and layer another wavetable with the wavetable that we have in the oscillator 1. I'm going to select the FM algorithm for oscillator 2 as well. And if I select the semitones parameter and then press shift and the up or down arrow keys, shifts the tuning by an octave. Detuning oscillator 2 against oscillator 1. So I'm just mixing the 2 oscillators. And if I switch on the Arpeggiator, if you remember, the MIDI clip is just a legato F note, but on the Arpeggiator, the rate is synced and it's at 1/16. So if I just take the amp envelope release down, sustain to full, and let's try and give this a bit more movement. Let's assign the MIDI note random to the amp release, and going to the output section, I'm going to the Unison section and choose random note, which makes things nice and wide, nice and stereo. Add some delay. So I wanna modulate the oscillator 1 wavetable position. I want to create some sort of pulse width modulation effect. So I'm going to use LFO 1. I'm going to sync it to 1/16. And I'm going to quickly move the oscillator 1 wavetable position. So MIDI note random is assigned to the cutoff frequency of the filter. This is a bipolar modulator, so it modulates the cutoff frequency both positively and negatively. So let's listen to this patch in context and give it some kick and bass and drums. So the two main parameters that make this patch what it is are the wavetables that are assigned to each of the two oscillators and the respective mix between them and the kind of modulation they have going on their wavetable position. The Unison is again very important and can completely transform the patch, make it more percussive if you choose the noise. Make sure to go through all the available options on the Unison and play with the voice count as well. If you switch it off, the patch becomes more mono, more dry, if you will. So Unison is very important. Check out the parameters, check out the voice count, play with the amount obviously, so you can spread the Unison even more, go through the different banks. It's definitely worth spending time going through the different wavetables that Wavetable provides and trying different wavetables for both oscillators and combining them and mixing them together. Even if you leave the modulation as it is and just switch wavetables, it's well worth spending the time because the sound changes drastically. And of course the position of the wavetable plays a massive role in the final outcome. And so far, the random modulation that we have going has been from the MIDI note random parameter. I haven't used the LFO ensemble and hold. So even though we have two LFOs, we can have 3 layers of random, or we can have 4 layers of random if we utilize velocity as well. That's before we start using Max for Live LFOs. I'm just gonna search for something brighter, something with more teeth. And so far we've been listening to Wavetable through without any EQ. I'm just going to put the EQ and just high pass the bottom end and high cut the top end, the very top end. I feel Wavetable is a simple, very intuitive and a very quick synthesizer to get some very nice results. The modulation matrix is the thing that makes it very fast to work with, and by touching a parameter it essentially becomes a modulation target instantly in the modulation matrix. You can assign whatever modulator you want to it and modulate it. Very similar, actually exactly the same way that the automation works in Ableton Live, so there's a recurring theme within the DAW. So let's try some probability triggers instead of using the Arpeggiator. Going to use draw mode and draw 16th note triggers. Select all of them and make them shorter. And the next thing I want to do is to edit the chance that each note has for occurring. So they have about 50% chance, each one of them has 50% chance of occurring. So yeah, this was Ableton's native Wavetable. Very efficient, very capable synthesizer, really good for FM leads. I hope you learned something from this video, and I'll see you at the next one. Cheers!